Tuesday, March the 3rd. Welcome to the City Council meeting. We are streaming the meeting live on YouTube channel. We are also archiving the meeting there for viewing. As with all of our City Council meetings, we will begin and invite you to stand for the Lord's Prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, then we'll get to today's meeting.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to our City Council meeting, Maddie. And if you would please do a roll call.
Patrick Tevenall.
Here.
Carla Krebs.
Here.
Lucy Datillo. Here. Joshua Schaefer.
Here.
Joel Storm.
Here.
Jim Barlett. Absent. Josh Wilbur. Absent.
Yeah, he may be, he will not be here tonight. All right, well, thank you for that. Council, have you had an opportunity to review the minutes from the last meeting dated February the 17th? If so, we'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move we approve the minutes as presented.
I will second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We have a busy agenda tonight. We actually have 4 ordinances that are on the agenda, as well as a public hearing. We'll begin with ordinance 2026-4, and maybe before Joe, I tell you what, right after you read that, I'd like to make some preamble remarks and then introduce Amy Williams for a presentation to council.
Yes, this is ordinance number 2026-4, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, repealing and replacing the zoning ordinance and subdivision control regulations by adopting the Unified Development Ordinance and zoning maps for the City of Madison, Indiana.
Thank you, council and guests tonight. Tonight we begin the adoption process for the City of Madison's Unified Development Ordinance, which combines our zoning ordinance and our subdivision regulations, much of which hasn't changed since 1997. The UDO was favorably and unanimously recommended by the Plan Commission on February the 17th, 2026. Getting to this point has been a key initiative for the past 16 months. It would not have been possible without the work of the Steering Committee, the Plan Commission, City Council, City staff, our consultant and administrator, Amy Williams, and community input. This ordinance incorporates best practices for planning the future of our community, brings new life to disinvested areas of our city, adds much needed clarity and organization, eliminates many non-conforming uses, removes traditional barriers to expanded housing options, and takes a document that is over 30 years old and says, we are welcoming the future with new strategies and the policies to support them. This new ordinance and maps, they are not intended to be static. Let's not wait another decade or longer to align our community's needs with its zoning policies. We can and should evaluate it each year and not be afraid to change if necessary. As with all of our council meetings, after a short presentation by Amy Williams introducing the UDO to council, we will begin the first reading of the ordinance and allow public comment. We will give any interested party the opportunity to speak for up to 4 minutes about the UDO or other ordinances that are on our agenda tonight. Also, at the end of the meeting, we will allow anyone to speak on any other topic, also up to 4 minutes, if you've signed in. I think Carlin went over that earlier this evening. The privilege to speak is a chance to share your thoughts or concerns with the mayor's office and your city council representatives. Please keep your remarks succinct and respectful. I would now like to introduce our planning and zoning administrator, Amy Williams. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. All right. Minnie's going to pull up a presentation here for us. For those that were at Plan Commission, I'm going to run through some of the similar things, but want to make sure all of the council also gets that same background here as well. All right, let's see, and it works. So really quickly, I'm just going to touch on the process. I'm also going to go through the updates that were included in the adoption draft, the 12/30/2025 adoption draft. I'm going to go through, again, some of the items included in that Plan Commission resolution that you guys had linked to on your document, as well as there is one recommended council amendment that we went through that is, it was caught when they were doing the ordinance. It's the repeal section. We want to actually not repeal, just 3 little points within that building code section, just to give you guys stronger basis for enforcement of your building codes as well. So I'll go through that specifically as well. So just a quick refresher, I know that a lot of you all have either attended Plan Commission meetings and or the training session that we did last November, but we had a committee that did go through and vetted this page by page, chapter by chapter, and made sure that we had a lot of good discussions, a lot of in-depth discussions that led us to this point. All of those meetings were open to the public if folks did want to attend. We did also start with a online draft, a public review draft in November. We had a local officials training, a public open house, and that then resulted in the adoption draft dated 12/30/2025. We had a Plan Commission hearing then on the 17th as well. After we finish, all of this, and eventually if this is adopted, the process doesn't stop here. And so that's the big message to you guys, that once this is adopted, or at some point it is adopted, that's not the end of this. This should be a living document, as the mayor referenced. We're planning on doing a 6-month assessment, which we always recommend after any sort of large overhaul like this, where we can look at tweaks, right? Not big overhauls or changes, but then annually, you also need to be doing assessments because state statute changes every year. There are things that impact the local ordinances every year. There's a number of them, either finishing up or still kind of at the tail end right now out of the current session. So again, that 6-month assessment is something that we definitely want to make sure happens, and then every 12 months, every year, you guys should have an assessment. If you don't see one, feel free to ask. Say, hey, why aren't we doing an assessment this year? And really, again, the purpose of that is to keep it relevant. As the mayor said, your ordinance is very dated at the moment. It's not current in a lot of aspects with state statute, and there's a lot of things that probably don't reflect the direction of the city, and making sure that the city is able to attract that quality development that you guys want, but also housing development, and making sure that some of those barriers are not there, but we still have kind of the right parameters in place for that when it does come. Oh, and it's going to pin for a minute.
Hey, on that reassessment,
Yes.
so we're going to plan on doing a 6-month assessment and then a 12-month after that annually
Yes.
every year. What, I guess, how do you typically see that play out with other locales? Do we work with a consulting firm like yours and the zoning board?
It can be it's flexible. I mean, you could do that. You could work with a consultant if staff don't have time for that. But a lot of times that's done by staff. It's kind of knowing what came through that last legislative session. I always say wait till the second half of the year to do those, because law's going to affect July 1st, so that we can kind of see how things play out. We can get a feel for it. That second half of the year, we want to go ahead and do it at some point to make sure really any state statutes that change, but that's a time to grab in anything else, like, oh, this wasn't quite working as well as we thought, or we need to adjust or shift here or there. So staff should be able to do that, but you can also engage, outside help if needed as well.
Okay.
I'm going to run really quickly through some of the updates that were included between that November draft and the December draft, just to make sure everybody kind of understands what was done this. And I ran through this with the Plan Commission, so some that sat through it, sorry, but I do want to make sure that everybody understands. We had that November public review draft. Again, we had meetings that happened between them, lots of great input, and that resulted in a handful of changes that I do just want to highlight, or at least the major changes, the bigger ones. We had 4 updates within the districts, 2 updates within the use standards chapter, 2 within the site standards chapter, 2 within the subdivisions chapter, 2 within the procedures, and 1 in the definitions. Is kind of a chasing the thing, the needle in the haystack as you have to go through things. So I'll just run through some of these really quickly. By all means, stop if you have questions, stop me. One was the impervious coverage, or surface area within the ag district. So it was a good comment that we had 10% max impervious. That means paved surfaces, rooftop, any of that nature, which is fine for a large, probably 5-acre tract or 10-acre tract. But you do have some ag parcels that are, much smaller than that. And so on a 2-acre tract, that might not be appropriate. So we did modify that. It's 10% for 5 acres or larger, and then 40% for those smaller ones. Just to make sure that was reasonable. The second one was also a consistent minimum living area. So within most of the districts, we had the 950 for single family, 2-family, and 600 for multifamily. We didn't specify that in some of our other districts, such as, I don't believe it was specified in general business or CBD prior. So we just made that consistent across all districts. And then we did clarify to reinforce the existing setbacks within your your RA and HDR, 10 foot for your primary structures on the rear and 5 foot for the side. So we just, again, kind of clarified that because it didn't quite align with your ag district. So we wanted to make sure it wasn't more restrictive than ag. And then we did also add an exception for HDR that if we have those older historic structures we want to keep, and that if the setback is not met on the side setback, we can actually use the 3 parcels on each side. So it was just a clarification that actually was discussed during that training session too. And then the permitted land use table, that was the last one within this chapter. So we combined or updated some names for preschool and daycare. We combined those, campground and campsite combined, and then pain management clinic and medical offices, we just broke those out specifically. And then we did add restaurant and service-oriented retail as special exceptions in RF to accommodate the existing uses. There was a proposed amendment to that at the Planning Commission level that I think helped to give a lot of comfort to everybody on limiting the size of those structures to 1,500 square feet. So, and then added indoor gun range is permitted in local business, and then prohibited chemical processing in your floodplain overlay. And then also looked at adding specific uses for data center, because that was something that was called out, probably one of the more frequent comments at the public meeting is they wanted that called out specifically, so that was done. And also to better assess the impacts, and then also called out loft dwelling, meaning live over, second floor, third floor. Just for clarity, we had multifamily there, but it was a little confusing for folks, so we just called them lofts. And then we corrected some of the warehousing, distribution, and bulk storage that actually got shifted between local and general business. That was a good comment from the public, so we grabbed that correction there. Within the third chapter, we talked about mirroring the best standards from the county largely, so that really kind of flowed through with liability insurance, the other environmental pollution liability insurance, prohibited locations, and minimum setbacks within that. And then the second was also looking at our commercial standards, and again, for solar, and mirroring largely the counties on that as well. In the fourth chapter, we did update some of the parking size standards. Your parking spots were definitely on the larger side of the scale of those, and went to a 9x18. We also looked at 8% of the parking area for must be landscaped for spaces, 30 or more spaces, and changed to minimum of 1 space per dwelling unit for multifamily and the CBD. Other thing within Chapter 4 was looking at structure standards. So specified that a fence can be put on the lot line if you have a 0-foot setback. That's to help HDR district. And then also up the maximum height of that front yard fence from 3 feet to 4 feet, because that's really reflective of a lot of your HDR fences. And then finally looked at a rear side setback and decreased it from 10 to 5 if you put up a solid fence or a wall for a pool. Within the subdivisions, again, we allowed internal sidewalks to be optional if it's served by septic. So that's really your RA type of subdivisions in large lots where they aren't expecting utilities, and also those would be counties to maintain. So we didn't want to force the county to maintain those. And then also limited the number of access points from a minor residential subdivision, which is really your RA subdivisions, to 2 points instead of having curb cuts all the way down the county road. Within our procedures, again, we updated building permit timelines and just specified that you have to start within 6 months, it has to be completed within 18, and you can get an extension if you'd like. And then also non-residential building permits, we did remove the need for a permit for residential fences, walls as well. Left it for commercial though. And then finally, we had to add 4 definitions because of the previous changes. So we did add those to the definitions chapter. So that was, again, I just wanted to highlight what happened between that November draft and that December draft. That was all included in the draft that was considered by the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission then did approve unanimously a favorable resolution to council for the adoption of the UDO, which is the 12/30/2025 draft, the converted zoning map, and 4 amendments to that UDO. I'll run through those really quickly as well, just to make sure you guys understand fully what you're adopting, and everybody here also understands that as well. So again, we had that Plan Commission hearing. Between that adoption draft and that February Plan Commission hearing, we had more time to meet with you all, meet with Plan Commission members, hear comments from the public, and incorporate those in. So that resulted in 4 different amendments. The first was to clarify the setback in your riverfront district. So I said clarify, definitely very particularly because we were not changing it from what your current is. Currently, the idea of being 5 feet or 10 feet if it's adjacent to a single or 2-family dwelling on rear yards, that was covered within a buffer yard standard in another chapter. Just to be very blatant and purposeful, we went ahead and put it directly into the table here. We updated the uses in the open space district. That was one I kind of mentioned. We went ahead and removed general retail, but then we added a restriction on restaurants and service-oriented retail within open space. They can't be more than 1,500 square feet within a building, within a structure, an enclosed building. That allows the few uses that are down there to continue and not be non-conforming, but we really didn't want to perpetuate, large restaurants and retail being developed down there. So I think that ended up being a happy medium, and those were kind of just shown there. And then the third one is to allow parking and setbacks in buffer yards, but still does need to be 5 feet from those property lines. So some of your general business parcels are pretty small. That kind of allows those to still function. And then also allowing that encroachment, it kind of followed through on 3 different pages, page 20, 108, and 119. That same idea has to kind of follow through in a couple different places within that. So this is just the buffer yard section saying you can't have parking within it. And then sorry.
On that one,
Yeah.
when you have lots like you have on Clifty Drive where there are several businesses connected parking lots, how does that play?
Yeah, so you're talking about when they're under different ownerships, right?
Different ownership, different parcels.
Yeah, so there is a section in our driveways and access within chapter 4 that does require, as long as it's feasible, that cross-development access, because we do want to encourage that, right? This fast food restaurant comes next to the next fast food restaurant. We want to be able to go between those without having to go to Clifty. So we do have it's called cross-development access, I believe it is, and it's in the chapter 4.
Does that parking and the 5-foot parking limitation apply in those scenarios?
So the 5 foot, you'd be able to have the driveway, but not a parking spot. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
If they did want them to all run together but be separate parcels, that would require a variance at this point. Unless they wanted to combine those, then that could function.
Okay.
And your deal with that is because if you sold one parcel and not the other, and they became under different ownerships, you don't want developments actually crossing parcel lines. Okay. And then the last amendment was just correcting general typos or cross-references that didn't update automatically in the actual document. So that was those 4. So the PC resolution did include, again, those 4 amendments, and I wanted to make sure you all understood those. Within the certification packet, you had to strike through an underlined version of all of those pages as well. So there was one, again, proposed extremely minor thing that we realized as we were going through the actual ordinance. When we looked at the repeal section, so this is in the first chapter, it's under 1D, number 6, there is this statement here for repeal, and it's just stating what this ordinance should be repealing, right? It should be repealing our subdivision regulations and our zoning code. Your off-premise billboards live within your building code, which is chapter 150. We had said it was going to be repealing chapter 150.9 through 150.99. In reality, that 99 has an A, B, and C, and D. D specifically refers to the signs. A, B, and C are in reference to a building code. I think they probably are still covered in the ordinance and the UDO in terms of allowing us to enforce those, but the suggestion was just let's let A, B, and C live, because again, it's directly related to that building code, just to give extra teeth in enforcement of our building code. So that would be the only suggested amendment, is to say, instead of saying through 150.99, we just say and 150.99D.
And what Amy's referring to is the ordinance reflects what is there,
Yes.
but the actual UDO has that language in it, so we're reconciling the two.
Correct, yep. And that was just kind of after it went through, the actual drafting of the ordinance, and Joe got some good comments in there too, and the mayor on, actually, we probably want to leave A, B, and C so we have extra grounds to enforce our building code. That's all that is. So that is a recommended amendment at the council level
So
with
what,
that.
What about 150.98? Does it?
So it would repeal all of 150.9, the existing. And I have that if you want me to pull it up too. Josh, if you want that.
Let's make sure we word that properly, because I think 150.98 would not be included in that statement, right? But you were trying to delete it still.
Correct. Sorry, I thought you said A. Sorry,
No,
I thought you said 150.9A. 98. You are correct, Josh.
We want to delete that or leave that?
We wanted to leave that, is what the ordinance reads.
Okay.
Correct, Mayor?
The-
Yes. And I can pull that up real quickly.
Section in our building codes talks about violations of the building codes. That is 150.98.
Again, our ordinance does also talk about violations of the building code, and any violation of the building code is a violation of the UDO. So, in essence, we've got like a circle around way of enforcing that, which is fine, but it was just, this gives you extra teeth to directly enforce it as well. And if you want, Josh, I have that ordinance right here, the 150. And what we can do too is I can send that ordinance out in particular. Trying to see existing ordinance, no, current regulations. Ordinances.
Yeah,
If you'd like, I can send the 150 out just so that you can directly see that one as well.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it online right now, but as long as we make sure we word that amendment properly is all. Make sure we remove what we want to remove and keep what we want to keep. And don't
Yeah.
accidentally leave or delete something.
So 150.98
With our amendment.
we want to leave, and we want to leave 150.99A, B, and C. Correct.
And 150.90 and as
Yes.
well, right?
Yes, Josh.
Okay, so the wording.
So 150.90 is off-premise advertising signs and billboards. We do want to get rid of that because our UDO absolutely covers that. 150.98 is the violations section, again, giving us extra teeth. It's not going to hurt to leave it. And then 150.99A, B, and C, again, are referring to our building code penalties. So again, it's just going to give us extra teeth. 150.99D covers penalties related to the billboards.
Okay.
Yep, it's a good clarification, Josh. That's a minor technicality. It doesn't quite influence or impact a lot within the actual ordinance. All right. So if you guys have any questions regarding the ordinance, I'm more than happy to talk through any of those.
You mentioned that we'd revise it every 6 months and then 12 months following that. What would the process look like time-wise if there was a revision that needed to be made?
Yeah, so right now, I think that, again, if you look at kind of maybe either late summer to early fall timeframe, August or September or something, would be a good time. Month or two prior to that, what I would typically say is, okay, Plan Commission meeting, hey, we're going to start to look at any amendments. If you've got thoughts or ideas, give them to us. Let us know. We'll compile all of those. Council, same thing. And then we would have a public hearing on that. Usually I like to do something informal at Plan Commission and just have discussions of it. Again, just so that it starts the dialogue. And then prior to that public hearing, we can get all of that out so everybody can actually review it and see it. Thoughts, ideas. If the public has thoughts and ideas, we can also entertain those. And then it goes through the same process. So it goes to Plan Commission for a public hearing, comes to council, and it's adopted by ordinance then. So it's the same process, but again, the idea is it's, we're not rewriting the whole thing at that point, right? We might be just doing small tweaks of, okay, this one didn't quite work, right? Or we want to tweak this definition or something of that nature. Or state statute. That point too, you'll be able to incorporate everything that's going through the 2026 legislative session at the state, and that all of those items could be incorporated too if they don't already comply.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, attachment C at the link is the final clean copy with all of the amendments or not?
No, that is the adoption, the 12/30/2025 adoption draft, and the 4 proposed amendments follow that with strike through and underline.
Okay, yeah. So is there a clean version that exists yet?
I can send that out if that's what you guys would like, whatever.
We'll make sure that's attached
Yep.
to the link. There is a clean version on the website. She's got a red line version so that there's, there's no confusion over what's being adopted, and then we'll have a clean adoption version.
Yep, that's no problem, Josh.
I guess that would include our proposed amendment.
The repeal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Should we go ahead and take care of that tonight?
It's
It's in the
it's actually in the ordinance language.
Oh,
But I want to make sure the UDO reflects the ordinance language is all we're trying to do there.
okay, so there is no amendment that the council needs to pass
Okay.
separately, correct?
Okay, that works for me. Whatever Joe says on that one, that works.
She was just clarifying what the language in the UDO was going to reflect,
Yeah, so
consistent with the ordinance.
I can then, Josh, pull together those 4. Again, I've got them because I already tracked changes. I just need to save you a clean copy then with those 4 amendments from Plan Commission and the 1 repeal updated, and I can send that through the mayor and you can send it out for council. That's no problem.
Any other questions for Amy before we open up for public comment on the first reading? Okay, now we'll open up to public comment. Again, please be succinct. Give your remarks to the mayor and city council for consideration. And we have time limit of 4 minutes. Is there anybody here who would like to address the mayor and city council on the proposed UDO? Dara, would like to have your name and address for the record?
Jamie Hagemeyer, 2612 Franks. I own Lanthier Winery. My question is, why are we limiting businesses developing on the riverfront to 1,500 square feet? Did I understand correctly, or maybe I didn't? I did understand correctly. Just wondering.
Yeah, I'm happy to address that. That was a recommendation at the Plan Commission level so that there wouldn't be large businesses, retail and restaurant, for example, developing on the riverfront in the open space. Yeah.
Why are we against that? Do we know why? We're against
We have 3
large
Plan Commission
buildings?
members who are also city council members. They could, so that would
Okay,
be a
thank
remark
you.
maybe from the Plan Commission.
Yeah, that came up. The concern was brought to me by several people in the public, specifically within open space zoning. And I sat down with Amy and Tony, and we all kind of found that as a meeting point to accommodate the existing structures that are already down there, so they won't be non-conforming. And also to allow a little bit more flexibility within open space without defeating the purpose of having an open space zoning.
So, if I understand correctly, defeating the purpose of open space, trying to keep things smaller is what we're kind of focused on,
To a point.
to a point.
Yeah.
And that point sort of dissolves when we get to bigger buildings for residential. Is that also what I understand?
Well, residential wouldn't be allowed in open space zoning.
Okay,
It
so when we-
would only be service-oriented retail and restaurant-type establishments, things that would serve the public.
So there's open space and then there's riverfront district. And the riverfront district was created specifically to avoid that open space restriction? I'm not understanding. We have a luxury apartment building that's been proposed on the riverfront, currently open space, that is being rezoned to allow that luxury housing development in the floodplain on the riverfront that was open space. But we're conserving the remaining open space and keeping that restricted to 1,500 square feet, which I think is a good idea. I'm just curious what the thought was behind keeping that small amount of square footage versus allowing a large.
Do you mean rather than just expanding riverfront along the entire riverfront?
I'm not asking about expanding the riverfront district. I'm asking if the riverfront district was created as a way to get beyond open space. The restrictions for open space are pretty clear. And I don't have any disagreement with that. I don't think there's a problem with citizens, and I certainly would agree with 1,500 square feet. That seems reasonable. I guess my question is, how do we go from some things being in open space to being rezoned to something that allows much larger buildings, creating a new district? What was the purpose of that, since we're concerned about open space on the riverfront being left at 1,500 square feet?
I'll have to refer that question to the mayor.
Well, yeah.
Thank you.
So the riverfront district, which was adopted last year by the Plain Commission and City Council, was intended to bring new investment to a small portion of our riverfront, as well as we talked about earlier, eliminate barriers, produce housing, all the things that come along with that. So I think what was intended through the Plain Commission amendments with this UDO was to, with the rest of the open space, restrict other development there to smaller buildings, if it was approved,
So
through that.
Okay, so the answer is yes. We rezoned it so we could have a larger building there? Because we really don't want those large buildings any other place?
No.
Okay, what am I
We have-
missing? I'm
What you're
not
missing
following.
is the year we spent, bringing forward the Riverfront Development District, which is 3 blocks on our riverfront, which is dilapidated, which has been suffering from disinvestment, and we want to bring other investment there in that 3-block area, listening to all the concerns of having restricting other development on the open space along the riverfront. And your time's up. Thank you.
I bet it is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think within the open space zoning too, it's important to remember that the majority of that is at a much lower elevation than the area that did get rezoned as riverfront zoning. So the uses that could be within the rest of open space are already severely limited by what can be developed in a floodplain, and that goes beyond any regulations we're able to impose.
Thank you.
Yes, Warren Oxford, 3611 West Ohio Riverview Road. I have 2 separate points on the UDO I'd like to address this evening. If possible, I'd like a little bit of leniency on time. We're not stacked up with 10, 20 people to talk, but I'll try to keep it as short as possible. The first one that I want to address is the setbacks for commercial solar. And I don't know if it was an oversight or just a difference in opinion. The commercial solar was changed to where they were going to match up pretty close to what the county had for setbacks and so forth. So there's a requirement that requires in certain zoning districts that if you have an existing residence and so forth, solar would have to be 500 foot from it. If there's not existing residences in certain districts, you still have to be 500 foot from the property line in R1, R2, or if it's something that's plotted residential, or R3. But that requirement does not apply to your RA district. And I don't think it really caught it much because the county doesn't have a residential agricultural district. It just has residential districts and agricultural. And currently, you do not have a requirement to be 500 foot setback on the solar from residential agricultural property. Now, if there's an existing building in that property, they have to be 500 foot from it, but not from the property. So you have quite a few owners of property that had purchased property in RA area that may build a future home on a portion of that property. When you had your plan commission hearing and your meeting before the council, the vast majority of the people that you heard from that were opposed to the zoning change for solar lived in the RA district. And so I would suggest that you make an amendment and do so at this time. It would be a very simple amendment to make. Your current ordinance simply reads, commercial solar setbacks from a parcel without a dwelling but platted for residential or zoned R1, R2, R3, or HDR 500 feet from non-participating property lines. I am just suggesting you add R3 to those categories. That would be RA, excuse me, RA, R1, R2, R3. And that would give, what's that? I believe it's on page 77. I don't have the whole document in place. So that would cover my concerns on the solar portion of it. The other area that I have a concern over is left over from the riverfront zoning side of it. When the riverfront zoning was done for multifamily dwellings, it was set to where a multifamily dwelling could be a permitted use. That also brought attention that you have other commercial districts that multifamily units are permitted uses. But what's happened when that becomes a permitted use, your zoning ordinance is not putting best practices into place to protect existing residents and property owners. You have positions when you've made those apartments a permitted use that somewhere along the line you're deciding, well, if we have enough money coming in for development, if there's a ready grant, if it's a project the mayor wants to go through, we don't have any problem of taking away existing property owners' value of their property that was there. You have people that bought property that they clearly had a designated river view. Their river view was across space that was zoned open, had been zoned open for many, many years, did not see any possibility of their view being disrupted, of them having 50 new neighbors next to them, the parking outflow from 52 neighbors.
Warren, I'm going to ask you to please wind up. I
I'll
know
try
you're
to.
trying to relitigate the riverfront
I'm
district
not trying
now.
to relitigate, I'm
Yes, you are.
expressing an opinion. And I'm asking that you would make those uses, multifamily dwellings, a special exception, not only in your riverfront district, but also your central business, your local business, and your general business. There are way too many variances, parking, impact on existing property owners to make those automatic. We need to have that added protected safety.
Okay, thank you for your input.
You're welcome.
So just to clarify, Warren is asking us to consider adding RA, R1, 2, and 3, correct?
Just RA.
Oh, just RA. Oh, okay.
And all the others exist.
Thank you.
We'll take that under advisement and discuss that with our administrator. Is there anybody else here would like to speak on ordinance 2026-4? Please state your name and address, please.
My name's Paula Weatherby, and I live at 2685 West Deputy Pike Road, Madison. And I would also like to ask to have that amendment done, because I don't know why RA was left out of it. I live in RA, and I've lived there for 50 years, and I value nature, and that's why people come to our town. And the more that we can keep our natural resources, the happier everybody's going to be. I mean, big is not better. And you look at New Washington, you look at Charlestown, we don't want to look like that. But I'm getting off subject. So what I'm really asking is that you have the setbacks 500 for the RA, just like all the others. Because, you know, people come to the town. You want people to come, you want growth, but what about the people that have lived here? What about the people who have voted you in and have a quality of life? Just like the people on the riverfront, they have their quality of life. People in the country have their quality of life. That's what they treasure. And just because we want to get big and we want to have all these people who haven't lived here for a lifetime, our family settled here in 1798. My third great-grandfather signed the Constitution of Indiana in Corydon, representatives from Switzerland County. So please value the people who have lived here and settled this area, and don't push us out. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, again, we'll take that proposed amendment under advisement, and I think we've worked really hard to make sure that we are protecting the quality of life for everybody in Madison, and especially hearing your concerns over the past year, and even prior to that, when we were considering commercial solar in the buffer zone. We've definitely listened for the opinions of the residents in the residential agriculture. Anyone else here would like to give remarks with regard to 2026-4? Now we'll move on. Joe, I'll turn it back over to you.
The next one is, we have the ordinance number 2026-5, which I don't know that I have. Yeah, I might.
Or if you have anything that you're leaving for us to review, I'll take a copy.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I haven't seen anything, so
This is,
will you include me? All right, thank you.
this is ordinance number 2026-5, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, amending certain portions of the City of Madison Traffic Code ordinance as found in Chapter 73 of the City of Madison Municipal Code.
Council's first reading, so we'll open it up to your questions and public comment.
This proposed stop sign was brought to me by, as a request by several residents in the Second and Central neighborhood. It's been discussed for a very long time. We ended up reducing the speed limit through there a while back, and but it's still, according to traffic data that the mayor provided us with, I think it was 50% of vehicles
50%.
are still exceeding the speed limit down there, and with the Mad Paddle Brewery becoming a pretty busy spot now. That Central Street corridor is kind of a buffer zone in between the commercial and residential through there. So I would ask that the council support placing the stop sign there just to ensure safety in the area.
Yeah, and I'll just mention as well, we had several temporary signs out on 2nd and 3rd Street during our Main Street construction, and that probably revealed, the benefit of slowing some cars down, and we removed those because the work was completed and those signs were temporary, and that's why we're bringing via an ordinance to council to consider. And I know we have some residents here. If there aren't any other questions or comments by council, we'll open it up to anybody who would like to give a remark relative to ordinance 2026-2, which is establishing a two-way street at Central and 2nd Street.
Good afternoon, council members. Kevin Watkins, resident 222 West 2nd in the Central Avenue corridor, I suppose. Yes, absolutely. During the construction, the stop signs, the temporary stop signs in place, seem to impose a significant difference on the traffic rate down there. We're essentially a neighborhood of homes, families, dogs, cats, kids, bicycles, crossroads with side road parking on both sides, parallel parking on both sides of the road, which make visibility challenging. I live on the corner of 2nd and Poplar. People come down to the end of Poplar and have to look around the traffic or around the parked cars to be able to see anything. Cars can approach very quickly through there. The temporary signs distinctly made a difference in the rate of travel through our neighborhood. And as soon as those signs came down, we all of a sudden noticed that speeds were not just creeping up, but lurching forward, I would say, and very dramatic difference. It made us, the neighbors along that section of the street for sure, appreciate the difference And so that's why we, I think, advance the cause and hope that you all will consider that a permanent stop sign. I can see the benefit going all the way down Second Street. I know my neighbors to the west, there was also a temporary sign at Vine Street, and I think that was significant. Otherwise, traffic's unabated from Broadway almost all the way down, and so I think that you may consider at a future meeting taking on that end of town as well. Certainly for the moment, I know myself and my neighbors are strongly in favor of you making that stop a permanent stop and easing the traffic flow through our neighborhood. We appreciate your time very much.
Thank you, Kevin.
Tom Stark, 202 West 2nd Street. I'm right on the corner of Central and West 2nd Street. And we've lived there now, it'll soon be 10 years. And we're very excited about the development that's happened on 2nd Street, the grocery store, Mad Paddle being reopened, Vintage Lanes and Wine Bar. But that has increased the traffic quite a bit. Not complaining about that, but it has always been a problem. And now it's exasperated by, all of the people coming down to enjoy downtown Madison. So what I have noticed over the last 10 years is that Central is a major corridor down to the river for our parades, for movie in the park, festivities that we have down there year-round. And we have a lot of children that are coming down there. We've had 2 close calls, one with an elderly person and one with a child. And again, as Kevin said, not being able to see around the cars that park there when they're downtown enjoying everything that we have. So I would really like to see that stop sign put back up. It did help. People slowed down, stopped actually, and looked. And our festival season is gearing up. So I think, it would be better to be on the safe side of having a stop sign there and protecting our citizens as well as our visitors to Madison. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. Anyone else? I would just say that I think we needed to do a more comprehensive review of traffic in our community. And yesterday, Chief Munt gave an overview of the number of calls with the City of Madison Police Department. It was over 13,000 calls, I believe, Chief, that Madison Police Department officers responded to. And the biggest complaint and probably safety issue, other than the serious crimes that might be occurred, it was drug related. Chief, I think you said it was traffic related, and people just will not slow down. So I think we need to do a comprehensive analysis of where these more stop signs or more traffic control devices need to be installed. We're spending a lot of time and money already in looking at major corridors like Main Street and making multi-million-dollar investments in pedestrian safety and vehicular safety too, because it does help avoid collisions as well. Crosswalks, more lighting, more signage, clearing of the trees, more visibility, traffic calming. The West End is going to experience great and much needed traffic control devices by the end of this year. And we talked a lot earlier about why are we relooking at our zoning. We're relooking at our zoning because decades sometimes go by before we really take a step back and look at how has our community changed, what are our needs now. And I'm having worked with NDOT, I know that NDOT's a lot about moving cars pretty quickly to their destinations, and we've been kind of struggling with that. How do we get the cars to slow down and realize that we're the destination, and because we are the destination, we have way more pedestrian traffic than ever before. And I mentioned at my State of the City last week, we had 2.5 million people on our riverfront last year, and as Tom and Kevin were talking about, a lot of them are coming from our Main Street shops and walking a few blocks to hit the riverfront. So there's a lot of crosswalk concerns, but I think we do need to do a comprehensive evaluation and advocate for that. And we'll have to just take this sequentially. If you look at our book of ordinances, it's very rare that we have added a lot of traffic management across the city in a really, really long time. So I'm glad that it's always better when the concerns come from the residents who live there. They express that to their council people, that we do the analysis, put together a plan, and now we have the opportunity to hopefully make that corner safer and others in the future.
Are there any other stop signs between Broadway and Jefferson right there? Is that the only one? Would that be the only one?
Broadway and
Or,
West
sorry,
Street.
Broadway and West.
West
Yes,
Street.
sorry, Broadway and West. Is it currently?
There's
no
one at
stop
Mill
sign?
Street. Oh, I'm sorry, that's beyond Broadway, excuse me. Yeah, no.
So this would be the only one?
West and then Broadway.
And they're right, traffic has picked up. It's already a busy corridor, but it's just getting busier with more activity to do in that area. This is the first reading. Any other public comments? Council, do you have anything else to add? Not, we can move to
Just
second.
thank you for coming.
Our second reading will be at the Tuesday, March 17th council meeting. There will also be another opportunity for public comment there before council takes an action on the ordinance adoption. Nothing to be there. We'll move on to the agenda. And I'd like to recess the regular council meeting and call to order the public hearing for ordinance 2026-2, the Eel Muncie project, which is the vacation. Turn it back over to my council. I don't need to do that. Sorry, Joe.
Yep, this is dealing with ordinance number 2026-2, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Madison dealing with certain alleys and streets and talking about there at the E.O. Muncie site. We're going to open it up for we're going to recess the council meeting and open up the public hearing as it pertains to this request.
Welcome back. I know that you presented to the Board of Public Works a couple of weeks ago, and the Board of Public Works did give this a favorable recommendation, but would you please introduce yourself again to council?
Sure. My name is Aaron Schmall. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Lewis & Kappas out of Indianapolis. We represent a number of school corporations around the state, and I'm pleased to be here representing Madison Consolidated Schools. We're here on the second reading of Ordinance 26-2. As you may know, there's a school currently, E.O. Muncie, which is going to be demolished, and there will be an early learning center replaced at that location. The school owns a number of parcels along Lanier Street, and 3 of those parcels have alley or street easements, but 2 of the alley easements are unused, and the street easement is a private access to the school. And so because of the way that the new building will be configured, we're seeking to have those existing easements vacated so that the development can proceed as planned.
If you also want to go ahead and address.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the ordinance that was in the packet has a section 3 related to existing or future utility uses. There are no existing utilities in those easements, and I think we confirmed today with the utilities director that there will be no planned future utilities for those easements either. And so I think what we would propose doing is striking section 3 and then renumbering sections 4 and 5 accordingly.
Yeah, so that would require an amendment by council in order to do so, and we can do that after we close the public hearing and then have the actual second reading of the ordinance. That's frankly pretty boilerplate language that we have always put in these street and alley vacations. However, after talking with the applicant, and this is a bit unique, right, because it's all on one parcel and it's all stuff that they own. I talked with Brian, and Brian had no issue with not having that in there because there would just be no reason for utilities to be in those areas.
We're already serving the surrounding area in different ways, and that's not needed there.
So there would be still easements for the edge of the properties, I assume, that are
So,
not covered by this?
so along Lanier Street, I presume there's a right-of-way that is not impacted by this.
Yeah.
If, so the three easements are here. This is an alley easement. This is the existing drive, which I believe is Tillman Street, Tillman Road. And this is the other alley easement. And so there's no other owners that are impacted by the vacation.
That road will stay in place as a city road? We don't currently maintain that, right?
You talking about?
Tillman?
Tillman would go away, and they'll work on a new entrance with regard to the plan for the early learning center.
So right now, these are plotted separately because the Muncie owns the non-developed areas and the school, what's the term was, the school district building corporation owned the actually developed portions where the building was.
So the building corporation owns E.O. Muncie building, I believe, and then the school corporation owns the vacant parcels.
Well, is that going to change with the new development? Will the plotting?
Well, the only reason that the building corporation owns the school building is so that they can issue bonds on it.
Yes. But they are split in different parcels today, right?
Correct.
So when the new development happens, will that parcel arrangement change, or will it stay the same? Will any of the vacated lots be built on, I guess? They will be, right?
No, the way that I saw the plan, that there still will be an access where Tillman is, but there will be a parking lot in front of the school, so the building is not actually going to move forward into those parcels.
So the lot layout will stay the same with the new building?
For the most part, yes.
And so basically, they need parking, because, I mean, it's just two 12-foot pieces of grass, right? And then the road itself that we're saying we're vacating.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Is there anything else from the council at this time? Because I was going to go ahead and see if there's anything from the public.
Thank you.
Is there anything from the public as it pertains to this ordinance and the public hearing? Okay. Seeing none, I would suggest that the public hearing is now closed and we will go back to our regularly scheduled programming. And we can take this up now on ordinance number 2026-2, and that's an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Madison vacating certain alleys and streets in the City of Madison. Again, this is the E.O. Muncie project. And so is there any further questions or comments from the council as it pertains to this?
I was going to go ahead and propose that section be,
Yes.
is this the appropriate time?
Yes.
Okay, so I would move that the section currently labeled 3 in our ordinance be deleted. Section 4 becomes Section 3, and Section 5 becomes Section 4.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Can we have a roll call vote on that? Any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? No. Can we have a roll?
Seconded that, sorry.
Josh?
Can we have a roll call vote?
Joel Storm,
Yes.
Joshua Schaefer,
Yes.
Lucy DeTillo,
Yes.
Carla Krebs,
Yes?
Patrick Tevenall.
Yes.
Thank you for that. And is there any, okay, now you probably, I'll help you. And is there any, anything else on the ordinance as a whole?
This is.
Let's vote.
Okay, I don't see anything else from the council. Is there anything from the audience? Seeing and hearing none, we will now have a roll call vote on ordinance number 2.
Joel Storm,
Yes.
Joshua Schaefer,
Yes.
Lucy DeTillo,
Yes.
Carla Krebs,
Yes?
Patrick Tevenall.
Yes.
Mayor, will you help get the information to the clerk as it pertains to the amendment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I think that was a little probably
on-
confusing.
Work on that.
So, okay. All right.
Thank you so much for being here, and we really appreciate the investment that the school and the community is making in the Early Learning
If
Center.
you have any questions, let me know.
And the city of Madison is proud to be part of it. We made a pretty sizable financial contribution along with Bethany Legacy Foundation and other members of our community, and we're very excited about getting started. Thank you for being here tonight.
We have our final ordinance tonight on second reading, and that is the ordinance for additional appropriations, and that's 2026-3. Is there any questions or comments
Come
for
back up for that.
Mindy as it pertains to this? Okay, seeing none. Anything from the audience as it pertains to this? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Patrick Tevenall,
Yes.
Carla Krebs,
Yes.
Lucy DeTillo,
Yes.
Joshua Schaefer,
Yes.
Joel Storm.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry to take us back in time a second. Joe, you might take a look at the EOMC ordinance as written. It looks like something got copy pasted, duplicated. It's hard to tell because of the way this was printed, but looks like sections B and C may have gotten duplicated within the text of the ordinance. Probably considered a scrivener's error, but
What page?
I did not.
2 and 4 maybe?
Oh, okay, so there's a 12-foot alley between lots 22 and 23 on page 2, paragraph C. And I think on page 4,
Looks like the whole thing got copy
which is
pasted
another
twice.
now therefore. So it kind of started as, Joe can clarify or not, kind of started as a recital, and then it's like now therefore.
Okay.
You can explain it whether or not.
Yeah, if it's good, then great. I just,
Yeah, I think it's okay.
it's, yeah. With the way it was printed, it's hard to follow.
Yeah, it's, and honestly, I think
For future references, I'm hopeful that maybe we can, it would be super helpful if these are not front and back. That is really makes it difficult, in my opinion. So it makes it difficult to follow. But I think it's all there.
The numbers or the pages are numbered. I understand, okay. Well, I think that concludes the business. Let's go back in time just a little bit, and that is, council, are there any reports, recommendations, or other business from standing or select committees? Okay. And under reports of city officials, I do want to ask council to approve a nomination for the tree board. I circulated an email earlier today. I do have a vacancy on the tree board, and I've nominated from a member who is on the tree board, actually assisted with the nomination, Lisa York. Lisa is a Madison resident. She's currently renovating a home downtown on First Street, and her experience is in home renovations, construction, and landscaping. So I think she'd be a benefit to the board and to the city. I do need an approval.
I would move
Okay,
that
please.
we accept the tree board appointment of Lisa York.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. And now we'll move into public comments before we get into mayor's remarks. Are there any public comments here per the sign-up sheet?
All of these people have already spoken. They didn't realize that they could speak openly
Okay.
during the ordinance process.
Great.
Debbie Beeman left, correct?
Yes.
She's on here. Okay.
I'll be mindful of everybody's time because it's been a good meeting with lots of substance. But I do want to go over a couple of things. I want to give you a legislative update. The 2026 legislative session concluded last Friday around, I should say Saturday morning, around 1 in the morning. And there was a lot of bills in there that we were watching, that we were involved in advocating, working very closely with our state senator, Randy Maxwell, and our state representative, Alex Zimmerman. Both of them did a very good job through the session in representing the city of Madison and Jefferson County's interests. I am very pleased to say that one of the bills that we were really working on very hard was Senate Bill 179, and that was an NDOT bill, an Indiana Department of Transportation. That was signed off by both chambers, and it's on the governor's desk to be executed. We believe it will be. And coincidentally, yesterday we received a call from NDOT saying that they want to fund our 2026 CCMG project. And if you recall, we applied in October from the last legislative session. There was only $100 million allocated statewide for the CCMG. That's the Community Crossings Matching Grant Program, which is a very significant funding source for Madison, Jefferson County, Hanover, and communities all across the state relative to our road improvement plans. And so we had a very good conversation and was able to very quickly get back into action with regard to that application. And the application, a new application round is just opened, and it's only for those communities who were not funded from the first round of 2026. So all of this has to be done in a relatively short period of time. So we will have a advertisement over the next couple of weeks and a bid opening on March the 23rd for the road application that we made. If you recall, we did a lot of discussion about our road inventory, how do we better asset manage it, what the ratings were. It was going to take us a decade to get our average rating, our typical road rating to average, because many of them are below average. So I'm very pleased to report that the $1 million application that we had made, we're now in the process of getting that funded. It is still on a first come, first served basis. There was $75 million added back into the CCMG program for another round. Very optimistic because we are ready to go, candidly. And just as a reminder, what streets were in that, after working with you and our asset management team and Mindy and others, it'll involve resurfacing of Craigmont Street, Crozier Avenue, Broadway Street, north and south to 3rd Street from Main Street, correct? Yep. And then 3rd Street from Craigmont down to the east side of Broadway, I think. Is that about right? Where are we? 3rd Street. Yeah, Craigmont to the east side of Broadway Street. So that was part of our asset management plan, and we'll work very diligently to get that in place. There were other bills that we were watching and working on. One of the more significant ones that I want to mention was House Bill 1001 that was approved by both chambers. It is on the governor's desk. There were some significant differences with that bill than when it started, and that is a planning and zoning bill. What the state legislature is making a priority is housing production across the state. We are in a significant deficit of housing everywhere, and in Madison, it's in the hundreds of units. And as you know, we have a very comprehensive housing plan, which includes downtown, it includes infill development, the affordable apartments on the hilltop, a new single-family entry-level subdivision, partnerships with Habitat, as well as other developers. But what this bill does is it's going to start holding communities accountable to eliminating barriers to housing. And I would like to say that, we are adopting best practices in our UDO, and that is what we're adopting in our UDO is recognized statewide as best practice. Although there may be other opinions on what that ordinance should look like and how aggressive we should be in producing housing, it's undeniable that we need more housing. It's also undeniable that we have very outdated ordinances and regulations, and we're still living in the past because much of what we use for our decision-making is 30 years old. But I do want to just end with this, and this is what it says. By the end of 2026, all cities, towns, and counties must conduct a public hearing to evaluate their unified development ordinances to determine if they are adequately promoting housing development in their communities. And among the things they must consider are density, rules around accessory dwelling units, reuse of unused commercial buildings for residential development, allowable floor area or lots, garage sizes and placement, roof pitch, lot size setbacks, off-street parking, design standards, height limits, impact fee zones, streamlining permit processing timelines, property tax abatements for higher density development, and donating vacant land for affordable development. I could go on. There's a lot of other things in that bill. I'm just expressing the fact that we started on our process a year and a half ago. It's been a key initiative for a long time. It's taken a long time to get where we are. But you are on the right side of this argument at the right time with what Madison, Indiana needs. And I think that it reinforces what's happening at the state level is reinforcing what we're doing here in Madison, Indiana. There are other bills. One in particular that may affect us is township mergers. We have 10 townships in Jefferson County. There's over 1,000 across the state. That's a layer of government in many areas that is not very effective. In some areas it is. So there's going to be mergers and consolidations and reorganizations of townships based on a rating criteria that the state created. And then the other big thing that I think is that's also on Governor Braun's desk is House Bill 1210, which deals with lots of things, Department of Local Government Finance and others. But one of the implications from Senate Bill 1 that was adopted last year, as you know, is implemented over a 5-year period, was going to require that the city of Madison, Jefferson County, town of Hanover, and all communities across the state adopt a municipal local income tax in 2027 to be effective in 2028. That has now been pushed back a year so that more time can be utilized to gather the information and then also work collaboratively between the city of Madison and Jefferson County to figure out what's the best approach for all of our citizens in Madison, Jefferson County. That's a big change. We need that time. It's going to be very difficult. It is going to create a local income tax on the residents of Madison and Jefferson County to replace revenue that was lost over this major property tax bill that slightly reduced your residential property taxes. But there's still a lot of bills in there. The governor still has to sign quite a few. We're monitoring all of them. I want to thank State Senator Maxwell and Representative Zimmerman for their help. And then as we move into the rest of this year, remember our year we're on a calendar year basis. The state is on a fiscal year. Effective July 1st, the population limits change for the matching contributions on CCMG. Right now, our matching contribution's 50 cents or 50%. So, meaning it's dollar for dollar. If we get $500,000 from the state, we have to contribute $500,000, and that's how we're able to do $1 million worth of road work. We need to do $10 million of neighborhood streets. This is completely separate from Main Street. We've worked on a different financing mechanism for the multi-million-dollar investment in Main Street. But one of the things that Senator Maxwell and Representative Zimmerman did was work to get into the bill that population limit was reduced to 12,500 people. So while we're still using the 2020 census data, we'll benefit from a lower match. Instead of a 50% match, it's going to be approximately 20%. That, in the typical course of a year, will save us $250,000 that we can redeploy elsewhere. I think you guys are on the AIM lists. I left you a copy of the AIM summary. We're still working on other things that have a big impact to Madison. And I'll pause there and see if anybody has any comments on the legislative update and CCMG. Happy that we're moving forward on that. Last thing I'll mention is thanks to everyone for attending my State of the City last week. It was great. We've got a phenomenal amount of new things and new investment happening in our city. And this is Read Across America Week. So today I got to be a second grader for a while, and it was a lot of fun. So I would encourage anybody here, if you have an opportunity, go to one of our local schools and or at home with your kids and grandkids, read a book. And I'll pause there and in case council has anything. Next meeting is Tuesday, March 17th.
Can you give us the clipboard? We have not been able to sign in on the hearing. And if there's anybody else that came in late, we would appreciate if you would take the time to sign the clipboard.
I would move to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks everybody for being here.